Now you can come that way, you can come that way. Just hit hard, hard, relax, hard. Okay, so let's get into the first couple of strikes we're going to learn. One of the easiest and most effective strikes that you can ever utilize, believe it or not, is your head. Very alien to this lady's thinking, as it's not part of the textbook guides to lady self-defense. But it's there. If you use the forehead and you hit the side at the front of the face, then you can cause a massive amount of damage. If I can just borrow Eric again. If you take a look now, we'll look at the difference between Eric and Marty. If we're in close and if we happen to be in that situation, what use is a headbutt? Well, you've got two little things you can do that are very neat from here. One is you can jump, and like a soccer header, you can plant that head straight on his nose and his face and his eyes, everything. That is definitely going to buy you some time, and it's going to be a shock to the system. But it's the only target worth really going for is the face. And the other thing that's critical about the head is that you must lead with the forehead. Now I'm going to use a pad here. We were talking this morning before we got started, and I said, ever used a headbutt before? And surprisingly enough, the answer came no, which is good, but now we can learn it. So the idea of the headbutt is to plant your forehead straight down in that motion and use the body to support it. Now, without giving yourself a headache, I'll do it myself here, is the type of action you're looking for. It's very short, it's very effective, and if you put it in with conviction, it's certainly going to ruin the guy's day. So just have a light headbutt. Okay, a bit more. Now you can feel that already. Now, when this is ballistic, okay, so now we're going to put some acceleration into it. And I want you to imagine you're throwing that big right cross, that venom shot that you're trying to knock the guy cold. This time use your head. Same feeling. Go. Boom. Bit harder. Now jump. Right? Okay. There, believe it or not, and it doesn't look much, but when you have nothing else, or if you're that close and you haven't got time to wind your hand back or throw a shot, the head buys you that split second. Equally from behind, it's not ideal to use this part of the head simply because it's a lot softer and you could end up damaging yourself. But in the event of a rear grab, now I'm about the same size here, so about rear headbutt, just dropping the head back, go onto the pad, lean back, boom, smash it. Again, a bit more. You don't want to do too much of these because obviously you're shaking the brain every time you're doing it. So we're not going full power on this stuff because, for that simple reason. But you've also got side, just touch it, that's it. And you've got this side obviously. So now we've got 4 uses of the head that most people don't think about. From the rear grab, bang. From the front, bang. From the side, bang. And the other side, bang. It's a fantastic self-defense tool. One you should, everybody, men, women, even children, you know, if they have to. You never know what's going to happen. You need to have a protective, you know, like your entire body as a weapon so you can protect yourself. So coming from the head, working down the body, the next great big weapon that we've got is the elbow. Now the elbow, for some women, or a lot of women actually, punching is not advised because their wrists, especially when, so just cover one thing when you punch. When you punch, you want to be curving your wrist slightly down so that there's a very slight bow here. That way, if the wrist on impact is not going to do this and break. This you do not want, obviously. And when it comes down to the first basic strike with a punch, you've got to be able to absorb the shot. Also, the knuckles have to be strong. Now, I know this lady does a lot of knuckle push-ups, so I'm absolutely confident she can hit somebody in the face without damage. If you want to train your wrist for punching, the best way is simply to go on your knuckles with that slight curve, support your body weight, come down halfway, all the way, halfway, up. So you're getting used now to holding the strength, and that you're punching the ground. In fact, every time you push, it's almost like a strike. So, if you're not going to punch, which for the majority of women is going to be the case, the elbow is the next lethal weapon in your arsenal, okay? The elbow, we're going to just place it onto the pad. Here. We'll go this side so you can see it. Now, in a combat situation, just touch it. That's the motion. Well, that's one motion. We also have an upward motion. And we have an overhand or downward motion. Yeah, that comes over and the point down. Now the best way to train these elbows with a partner is to place your elbow on. Okay, now just push. Push the elbow, not the body. The body you want to keep stable, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So you can feel now what impact is like, and go back and push. Now we're not doing anything fantastically powerful here. We're learning the motion. So we're going to come up, push it again, push it up. So you want to be hitting with a point upwards. And then over the top. When you go over, make sure that that point comes down, because you're going to be doing this. It's an absolute knockout technique, because the point of the elbow on the jaw, and again that whole side of the face, is devastating. You have also the back elbows, where we can come now back across, which again is very effective. And a good tip when you're elbow, keep your elbow and your arm in line, your forearm in line with your bicep, just so that you've got a solid unit to move. We're going to do these a bit more dynamically later, but there's all sorts of combinations. And then of course you've got from the rear, you've got a back upwards elbow. Yeah. Again, people say when you're in bear hugs, elbow the rib, don't elbow the ribs. If you've got, you know, we're not, I can't tell you what option you're going to face when you're out there. What I can tell you is to use the weapons that you have at your disposal. So rather than try some fancy throw by turning your hip and trying to lift this 200-pound guy over the top of your back, a couple of sharp elbows and a few headbutts and a few kicks behind you might just again buy you that time. But if you're a judo expert and you can throw, why not? Work to your strengths, but I'm talking about most people. So the elbows work on both sides. Now, the next one is the knee for the big lever, okay? And the knee can be thrown this way. Now when we use the front knee, because we can't really generate a lot of power, we have to switch it back before we kick to get that power. So you jump back, boom. Now, you've also got two other little weapons that people rarely talk about, and it was the great UK martial arts teacher Steve Morris, who I had the pleasure of training with, and the privilege I should say, many years ago. And he actually was telling me a story once when he knocked a guy cold with his hip bone. And I said, how do you strike someone with the hip? And he said, look, he said the person's head was just happened to be there, bang. Now do I recommend this? No. For most people, but if your head is there, the hip bone is very, very strong, and you can whip the hip straight into the head, both sides, okay? It is a viable weapon if you've got the confidence to use it. It's a very hard area, and sometimes you haven't the space to get the knee, because for whatever reason that head is there. Bam. So we'll practice these strikes again with a little bit more power when we come back.